All right. Good evening. I'd like to begin the February meeting with a pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to start off our meeting with a public hearing for, it's being held for questions and comments from residents on proposed Resolution 01-2025. Resolution 01-2025 proposes to amend the Union Bridge and Environs Community Comprehensive Plan, which would update and supplement map revisions, text revisions, demographic data, and inclusion of a housing element to the plan as required by state law. Resolution 01-2025 was introduced on January 27, 2025. The public hearing was advertised in the Carroll County Times on February 5th, 2025. So I understand, Ned, we have comments and questions, and Ned, you have something to say?
Yes. Just wanted to acknowledge for the record, and I gave every council member a sheet there with what I have in my hand. For all the time and effort to recognize the Union Bridge Planning and Zoning Commission, Tom Long, Chairman, Logan Gross-Nickel, Amy Kalin, ex officio, Thomas Marble, and Ed Willier. The Carroll County Department of Planning and Resource Management, recognizing Sandra Baber, the Geographic Information System Manager, for the department, and Corey Ann White, GIS specialist, who produced updates and revisions to 17 plan maps in the set. So the 2008 plan had 17 maps, and the amendment has 17 new maps. And Corey did a super job. Just can't say enough about it. To the town of Union Bridge, Dawn Metcalf, clerk treasurer, who serves as the administrative secretary to the Planning Commission, Mandy Porter, town attorney, and myself, town planning consultant. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I have to recognize myself, okay? Adjoining jurisdictions, Carroll and Frederick counties, who were participants in the 60-day review process, and the Maryland Department of Planning, which coordinates and participates in the 60-day review process. So that's the acknowledgement, and the statement for the record I wanted to put in was that the Union Bridge Planning and Zoning Commission's approved Fourth Amendment is the end product of the Commission's 14-month review and update of the town's 2008 comprehensive plan as previously amended. Adoption of resolution number 01-2025 will implement 1, the plan amendment as set forth, 2 zoning map amendments as set forth, and 3, 1 code text amendment as set forth. So that's all I have, and I thank you for your time.
All right. Any other questions or comments about the public hearing? Okay, so we will close the public hearing and open a regular council meeting. So I hope you've had a chance to look over the operating statements and minutes. If I could have someone make a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the January 2025 operating statements, January 27, 2025 council meeting minutes, February 10th, 2025 work session minutes, and Quantum's financial statements for January of 2025.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
All right, thank you. All right, any questions or comments? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. All right, so the next on the agenda is we have Enough with Ed Singer and Commissioner Vigliotti. So,
Commissioner, you want to say a few words first?
Sure. Say I've had enough of them already.
Go ahead. I'll let the commissioner lead off.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I want to thank all of you for the time that you've afforded us on your agenda. As long as human beings exist, we know that there's going to be the potential for poverty. We know that there's going to be difficulties that individuals face for any number of reasons. And we're here tonight to present to you on behalf of the state and behalf of the county the Enough Act, which aims to alleviate poverty by joining forces locally and working together with local partners to be able to do just that. And the substance of the conversation I'll let Ed get into. But this really is almost a tailored way for us to approach issues that we face in common. As elected officials, I know all of you know Union Bridge from the bottom of your hearts. You know where things are, you know who lives where, you know what areas face what conditions. And so we're very much hoping that you were willing to partner with us to try to alleviate the concerns that our fellow Carroll Countyans face. And so I will turn it over to Ed.
Thanks, Commissioner. And I want to thank Commissioner Bigliotti and all the commissioners who were supportive of our efforts with the Enough Act. This is an initiative of Governor Moore. It's a new initiative that we'll be working on here in Carroll County. I want to introduce a couple of staff members we have with us tonight. Maria Lowry is our local care team coordinator, and what the local care team does is coordinates when families have a child that's struggling, whether it's in school or with the legal system or whatever. They can ask for a local care team meeting, and we identify resources and try to connect the family with resources so that they know what's available, so that they can try to meet the needs of their family and their children. And I kind of look at the whole job of the local management board, because you guys probably don't know a lot about what the local management board does, but trying to help families make their children successful in becoming adults. And that's why this new Enough Act falls under us. Addison Esslinger is our community engagement coordinator, and she's going to be the face of our efforts with the Enough Act. And you're going to see her out here in the community as we're trying to get information from people who live here about what is needed in Union Bridge to make a difference. So that's kind of a little bit about us. So the Enough Act is it's an initiative, like I said, it's Governor Moore's one of his priorities. Right now, I know the state's struggling to figure out how they're going to balance their budget and all that, but this is one of the priorities of the governor, and it's first of its kind. It's a little bit different from what we've always done in that normally we as the local management board, we look at what the needs are of Carroll County. And a lot of that gets focused right on Westminster, and everything seems to fall there. This is a place-based type of effort, and what we're doing is we're looking at the areas that have the highest poverty levels in the county, and while we're going to do a plan for the entire county, we're going to focus on the areas that have been identified as having the highest child poverty. And so the idea behind it is to try to surge resources into neighborhoods that have been disproportionately impacted by systems and policies that limit wealth creation and economic mobility. And Enough stands for engaging neighborhoods, organizations, unions, governments, and households. And I've gotten that acronym down pretty good now at this point, and we're here to talk to you as the local governing body because we think that it's important to get your input as to how we engage the citizens here in Union Bridge, how we get them to come out, and how we get them to provide us feedback as to how we can make a difference as far as the Enough Act is concerned. If you've got your slides in front of you, there's one that kind of looks like a house. It's the pillars of the Enough Act. And what this talks about is it's what the theory is behind the Enough Act is all residents feel welcomed, valued, and have a role in the growth in their community. Children have access to high quality education and care while ensuring smooth transitions from birth until working in a career. All families have access to affordable high quality health care, including maternal, mental, and behavioral health care. All families can meet their needs, working with dignity and building wealth for their future. And really this is about trying to end child poverty and generational poverty is what the whole goal of this program is. And all residents of the community feel safe and have access to high quality housing, a thriving commercial core, recreational spaces, nutritional food, and transportation. And I've been working with on the United Way's Carroll County board for a number of years, and one of the things we identified was a need for
for food here, and I know Councilman Cutsale's been working with us and the rescue mission and whatnot, and partnering out here in Union Bridge to try to make a difference there. So it's you know, before we even got into this Nuff Act, we kind of identified there were some needs here that we could meet in Union Bridge. The Nuff Act, though, theory of action calls for a cross-sector, diverse partnership to engage in collaborative action with community residents to drive decisions for place-based investments and strategies that increase economic mobility to end child poverty. So the idea behind this whole thing is that you identify a community quarterback. And we've got, I guess I just want to start with these maps up here. We have two areas in Carroll County that were identified. One's here in Westminster, and the other is here in Union Bridge, where we have child poverty rates, according to the census, that are between 20 and 29% of children that are living in poverty. So these are the two areas that we're going to be focusing on. And we met with the City of Westminster, their mayor and their council a couple of weeks ago and talked about the Enough Act. So the idea behind this is we want to identify somebody in the community really who has influence that can kind of take the lead on making change in the community that'll help whatever it is that we need to do. We don't know what it is that we need to do to help with economic mobility. And the nice thing about being out here is that it's, you know, rather than everything being centered around Westminster, we can take a look at the community here and what this community needs. And I don't know whether it's, you know, if there are services that are already existing, whether we need to bring those services here, or whether transportation is an issue, or what it is that the community needs. But we're looking to partner, and there's a big yellow dot on your PowerPoint slide. It kind of shows all the folks we would work with. We're looking to work with nonprofits, you know, who's already working here in your community, the school system, and the local management board's kind of the center of this right now. Now, where we'd like to get is eventually we would like to find somebody who wants to lead the effort in the community, whether it's, you know, some organization that's here in the community would want to kind of lead the effort, and we can provide technical support and help find resources and things like that to do what's best for the community, because you all know your community best. We're not asking for any monetary contribution from the town. I think that's an important piece. But as we look at this, there are areas that, you see these blue spots on the map, and we've got these areas that are between 20 and 29% poverty rates. The dark blue areas are even higher poverty rates, where they're over 30%. Governor Moore would like to get to the point where there are competitive grants available for, you know, these areas that are 20 to 29%, but right now the competitive grants are only available for those that are in those areas that are over 30%. And we've had some ideas about how we could, you know, if we figure out through our process, you know, how we could potentially do something to make a difference. I think some of the discussions have centered around, you know, the cannabis funds are supposed to help with underserved communities. We could look at that with the commissioners as to whether or not that would be a source of funding to do something. We could reach out to some of the businesses and philanthropic community. We can reach out to nonprofits, and we can try to see what resources are out there that we could redirect and make the most difference where we have these areas of concentrated poverty. There's a slide that talks about enough results areas, and it's got these 4 blocks here. You guys can just take a look at them, but it's essentially creative career education, healthy families, economically secure families, and safe and thriving communities. So I already hit the maps here real quick. They're on slides 6 and 7. And you can see the area here in Union Bridge. I mean, here's your municipal boundary we've laid out on the map, and it's Union Bridge and all the surrounding area. The one in Westminster gets a little more complicated because of how that's laid out. That doesn't make a difference to you all. This is essentially your entire community here, so it's not there are not a lot of other type of boundaries to be concerned about. It's essentially all of Union Bridge. The chart on slide 8 just essentially shows the poverty rates here in Union Bridge. And then slide 9 is our timeline on what we're trying to do right now. So the goal of this is we want to ultimately come up with an asset map and a community plan so that we have some actionable items that we could work on trying to make a difference here on what's needed in Union Bridge for the community. And so right now, we're in the process of talking to you all. We're going to talk to some of the nonprofits, and we want you all to suggest who it is that we should be engaging with that are already working in your community. We started in Westminster. We've been engaging some different organizations there, and that's been one of Addison's primary duties right now is doing that. But we're starting with you guys as the government, and any organizations that you would suggest to us that we should talk to is important to us. We're hiring a consultant to help us put this report together. What we're asking them to do is essentially guide us in the process, help us develop the right questions to ask, and help us compile the data. Addison's going to be doing the boots on the ground work in the community. She has experience. She worked with the Partnership for a Healthier Carroll County and helped put together the Community Health Needs Assessment. And she's got a lot of experience in engaging the community. So I think she's going to do a great job for us in being our boots on the ground. But we're looking at, we've already got an RFP out for the consultant. We're hoping to get them on board and have a contract signed with them by the beginning of April so that we can spend some time working with them on what this process is going to look like. And then in May and June, we want to be out meeting with the community. And what that might look like, it could be anything from, I've given some thought to Union Bridge. I know Union Bridge a little bit. I'm not native to Union Bridge. I grew up in Eldersburg and I live up in Manchester now, but I'm familiar with most of Carroll County. And thinking about how you get the community involved and how you get them out and how you get them engaged, because we want them to talk to us and we want them to answer questions and we want them to tell us how they think we can make a difference here. And just throwing out some ideas, we thought maybe we could potentially sponsor something like a dinner at the fire hall and potentially have some activities for the kids or something that we could bring families out and potentially engage them there. Maybe there's something that we could do with the Dream Big Union Bridge organization to kind of sponsor something and get people out. And maybe Union Bridge is small enough that maybe we could get some volunteers together and maybe even go do door-to-door canvassing if there's certain areas we ought to be looking at. So we're not saying how we should necessarily best engage the community, because we think you can help us with that. Our goal is to have our final reports done and presented to the commissioners by the end of September. But that's not where things end. Ultimately, what we want to do is once we have these reports and we've identified what we need to do, we need to start reaching out to people who can help us figure out how to make those things happen, whether, whatever the service is. And I don't know what the services are going to be that might make a difference for people here, whether it's something related to, I'll just give you an example of something that we did this year from the local management board perspective that I think is making a difference for some of these high school kids. And Carroll County has a really nice internship program for high school students. But if you don't have a car, you can't get there. So essentially, if you're a kid that has parents that work and they don't have enough money to buy you a car and you want to have an internship, you can't participate in the internship program. So this year the LMB sponsored a transportation program so the kids that couldn't get transportation could potentially participate in internships. And we've had some of them out of the county and different places, like one of them was wanted to be an athletic trainer and they were going to Stevenson and things like that, where we give the young people who might be from a disadvantaged background an opportunity to see some potential career paths that they could be taking that they might not otherwise get to see because they can't participate in like that internship program. And that's just an example, and that may not be what we need here. We're looking for the input of your community and the input of you all to tell us what's needed here in Union Bridge. So this big slide number 10, if you don't take anything else away from tonight, slide number 10 is the most important piece, and it talks about what we need from you. It talks about who should we engage with, who's already working here in your community, that type of thing. How should we engage with the community? This is, I don't think we have any cultural issues here or anything of that nature that we're going to have to overcome necessarily here in Union Bridge. Maybe there's something that I'm missing, But in some areas, you have high populations of people that are not native English speakers and things like that, where that engagement can become difficult. But if there's specific ways we should engage people, or if you have suggestions of how we can get people to come out, that's what we're really looking for. How can we get the community members to participate? And where should we hold the meetings? And where the other piece that we might ask you guys for is, are there certain areas in Union Bridge, we brought this map along and we're gonna leave this here with you. If there are certain neighborhoods or certain streets here that you think we should focus on because you think there are high areas of poverty in certain pockets here in Union Bridge, go ahead and draw on our map and we'll try to make sure that we focus on those areas. If we decide we're gonna do some door-to-door canvassing, maybe there's a 2 or 3 block area that you all think is more important than somewhere else, that we might talk to people about what they're struggling with. So that's our big ask of you, is to tell us how we can best do our job. And there's a QR code, and I think Addison also gave you a copy of the survey. And what we'd like to do is try to get you to either respond to the survey by scanning the QR code and getting back to us, or you can fill it out and give them to Dawn, and we'll come back at some point in time and we'll get this map and any surveys that you all want to write on and give us feedback. But that's kind of where we are and what we're trying to do. And we would really value, if we could get you all behind us and have you involved in the process as we're working on this. My biggest concern is when they first came up with wanting us to do this, and we were essentially told by the governor's office, we want local management boards to do this. And I said, well, if there's not money that goes along with this, how are we gonna make a difference for these communities? And I don't wanna raise people's expectations and then not do anything. So I don't wanna just come up with a plan and put it on the shelf. And it's not gonna be easy for us to do, but I think we're gonna need to talk to whoever our community partners are. I mean, I think one of the biggest things we came up with when I was working at the health department, we were talking about what can we do for substance use prevention, and we're like, well, we really need after school programs in the middle schools. And the commissioners stepped up and funded some money towards putting after school programs in the middle schools, and then the Boys and Girls Club got involved, and now we've got after school programs in all the middle schools to give the kids something positive to do after school. And it's kind of like having a second set of parents there that are checking home access when the kids come in, and they're making sure the kids are on track. And if you don't do your homework first, you don't get to do the fun stuff in the gym. So programs like that, I think, can spring out of this, but it's going to take, we're going to have to find the right community partners to work with, and we're going to have to figure out how we're going to fund it. And like I said, we're not asking you guys for money, but we've got to, it's not, the money part's is never an easy thing. It's easy to identify problems and maybe some ideas of what to do about them, but how you're going to fund it is always a sticking point. And, I certainly don't want to go ask the commissioners for money because I know they're struggling with their budget right now too. So I think there are ways we can do this. It's just a matter of figuring out what's needed here. So is there anything that I missed, Addison or Maria?
I think so.
And as time goes on and the program expands, I'm sure the governor is going to be looking to increase the amount of grant funding that's available for areas that do not meet that particular threshold.
Well, that's what they've said.
Right.
And the only thing that concerns me, and maybe economic times will get better, but right now, I mean, with the way things are going in the legislature, there's all kinds of push and pull, and that may take some time. But I think I'm more into. I think we do a great job. I think one of my favorite things about being here in Carroll County is just the partnerships that we have. I mentioned the United Way thing. I mean, Officer McGinnis was involved in helping to put that together. A lot of volunteers, the United Way and the Westminster Rescue Mission and the school system all kind of pulled us together to make some of these food distributions happen. And it's just a matter of, I think, finding the right community partners sometimes. And once you get people talking about things and you realize that there's something that can be done, finding the right people to do it. So I think regardless of whether, promises, promises for down the road, I like that, and I like that the governor says he's gonna make that commitment, but who knows? 4 years from now, he might run for another office, and he might not be governor. If we're gonna take the time to do this, we need to make sure that we're gonna try to have an impact in the community, and I agree, Commissioner, it'd be great if that comes along, but I think we need to also take a look at what we can do in the interim, not counting on that'll ever necessarily be delivered.
So there is no money. None of the money that the governor granted for this statewide operation will come to Westminster or Union Bridge.
Not the competitive grants right now, right. Now, there's potential, and we've talked about this, and we haven't put this before the commissioners or not, but that the cannabis money that's coming to the county is supposed to be for areas that have been adversely impacted by, and I don't want to say that Union Bridge has necessarily been one of those areas that's been adversely impacted by marijuana use or substance use, but if you could make the argument that it's an economically disadvantaged community, that's one of the things that's mentioned in the use of cannabis funds as to how they want us to direct that money. So that's a possibility. There are a lot of philanthropists out there and other organizations who would certainly help if we could show them that there's a need. So I think that's an important piece too.
Ed, I was just going to say, Ed's completely correct about that. We are approached quite frequently by people who want to do good somewhere, but they don't know where to do it, they don't know who to speak to. And so while there may be no state funding immediately for this, we have other resources that we can apply to do something like this. And so any advice or suggestions you have about where we can apply something like that is going to help not only us to be able to do that, but we'll get the right people into the right places to do it, like Ed said, in the interim.
And I really appreciate your time, and I'd really love to have your involvement as we move forward with this. And like I said, Addison's going to be our face. I think Commissioner Rothstein said, oh, so we're not going to have to look at you all the time. We can see Addison instead. And it's like, yep. So she's going to be out in the community. That's primarily why she's here. And so we want to do what we can to make a difference here in Union Bridge. Any other questions?
I don't have any more at this time. We just need to.
Thank you all very much for your time, and thanks, Commissioner, for coming out and supporting us.
Thank you very much. God bless all of you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is Solar on Earth. Maybe not? Okay, we'll continue then. All right, so for the mayor's report, I have Perry's stuff. Oops. The first is, ever since Buttersburg Restaurant closed its doors, Mayor Jones has been networking to find someone to purchase the building and business with the intent to reopen the restaurant. Mayor Jones may have found a potential buyer for the restaurant, so that is his announcement. Election judges appointment. Current election judges Cheryl Keeney and Eliana Bowman can no longer serve on the Board of Elections. Mayor Jones recommends that council appoint Barb Wareheim and Judy Jones to fill the vacancies on the Board of Elections. So if I could get a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any questions? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Their term begins immediately and ends on June 30th, 2027. All right. So we turn the time over to Mandy for our attorney's report.
Thank you. At the last meeting, I introduced Resolution 01-2025, and that is what we had the public hearing on today. Resolution 01-2025 is the adoption of the Fourth Amendment to the Comprehensive Plan. As Mr. Kuhlman indicated, the Planning and Zoning spent a lot of time diligently working on this over the past 14 months. Along with a lot of help from Mr. Kuhlman, Dawn, and a comprehensive plan is something that is a vision looking towards the future of the town. It helps the town, along with council, planning and zoning, to implement certain measures as it moves forward and it builds and it grows. So in order to do that, the comprehensive plans have to be updated every so often so that the town can move forward, can build, and can grow. So Resolution 01-2025 is adopting that. It was introduced, it was adequately publicized and advertised in the Carroll County Times, and we're asking for the adoption of that and for it to be passed today.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion to adopt Resolution 01-2025?
So moved, we adopt Resolution 01-2025, amending the Union Bridge and Environs Community Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
All right, any questions? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it is approved. Anything else?
That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Today.
All right, next up is I called you doctor. Deputy, Master Deputy Kevin McGinnis.
All right, I've got some catching up to do because unfortunately in the month of January, I sprained my ankle. I believe it was the January 22nd or something. I slipped on ice. Of course, not the most heroic thing to do in my job is slip on ice and go out, but
Did anybody see you?
what's that?
Did anybody see you?
This was on. I don't know if they looked at it or not. I was very embarrassed because I was like, I got to document it somehow, but yeah, I was actually, you did the pig count this year, right, Sherry?
Actually, no, I did not.
Oh.
I ended up not doing it, yeah.
Okay, so I was actually going into the meeting. She was in the same meeting as me, and I just got done homeless outreach, and of course, during that week, it was frozen everywhere. Ice on all the parking lots and whatnot. It just was so cold. And I was kind of in a hurry to get in there and get on the virtual meeting, and I just wasn't looking where I was going, and it happens.
It happens. Sure does.
I thought maybe that's where you had done it out there.
Yeah. So I had my foot up during that meeting. I was actually in a lot of pain. So Carroll Occupational Health directly after. But anyhow, regardless, I'm getting caught up from December to January. So between December 23rd, 2024 and January 27th, 2025, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office received 43 calls for service within the town of Union Bridge. Out of those calls, 4 were found to be reportable. On 12/28/24 at 5:15 p.m., an individual was experiencing a mental health crisis in the 300 block of East Elver Street. The individual was transported to Carroll Hospital Center for further care. An emergency petition was then completed. On 12/28/24 at 11:19 p.m., a fight was reported around North Lightner Street and East Elver Street. The two parties assaulted each other over an argument that stemmed from an ex-boyfriend and his current relationship. Both parties were advised of how to apply for charges at the Commissioner's office. On 1/2/25 at 7:21 p.m., a domestic assault was reported in the 300 block of East Elver Street. The victim alleged that she was strangled by the suspect and struck on the foot. Suspect was located and arrested. Case closed by arrest. And on 1/9/25 at 12:11 p.m., an unattended death was reported on the 500 block of Sharner Court. This cause of death was found to be from natural causes, no suspicious conditions, and the body was released to Hartster's Funeral Services. And then between January 27th and February 24th, 2025, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office received much less calls for service, which is a good thing. 18 calls for service within the town of Union Bridge. Out of those calls for service, 2 were found to be reportable. On 1/27/25 at 8:49 p.m., a domestic assault was reported in the area of South Main Street. The suspect was later arrested and transported to Carroll County Central Booking that evening. The victim was provided with DV resources. On 2/22/25 at 7:02 p.m., say that 10 times fast, a harassment was reported on Stoner Street. I go to Stoner Avenue a lot. The victim advised that numerous teenage girls were at her house advising that they wanted her daughter to come outside and fight them. Allegedly, this occurred several times, and multiple Snapchat conversations were recovered revealing threats from individuals known by association to the victim, and this case is open pending charges. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I emailed that the month, but here, that copy can be yours.
All right, thank you. All right, any public comments or concerns? No? All right, so we will go to committee reports. Sherry, start with you.
Okay. On January 18th, I reported 3 streetlights with problems, Benedum and Elger, 47 North Main, and 115 Penrose. On 1/27, I attended the town council meeting. On February 4th and 11th, I reported the light outages from January with an urgent message for the repairs to be made. For some reason, they just were not doing them. 210, I did not attend the work session because I had a funeral in Denton, Maryland to attend. On 220, I reported streetlight outage on the corner of Main Street and Green Valley Road. And sort of like a public comment, Dream Big Union Bridge is actively working on the annual Rubber Duck Derby and Jeep Show, which will be June 7th this year out at the Donald D. Wilson Walking Trail. That's all I have.
Okay. Ellen?
I have nothing today.
Okay, I'll give my report. On January 27th, I emailed the fourth grade teachers and principal of Elmer Wolf regarding the visiting for the If I Were Mayor essay contest. On February 4th, I toured the walking path with Donald. On February 7th, I visited the fourth graders at Elmer Wolf and invited them to participate in the If I Were Mayor contest. On February 7th, I reported a light on North Main to Sherry, the one that had the urgent call. And throughout the month, I was in contact with Lita, Ellen, Dawn, and Master Deputy McGinnis regarding parking issues. All right, Amy.
We made it through the snowstorms and the ice storms. Thank you. I didn't receive any complaints.
All right. If there is nothing else, then we can adjourn the meeting. Can I have a motion?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions or comments? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Our next work session is March 10th, 2025, and our next council meeting is March 24th.